The many cultures of the Middle East. Culture, a shared set of traditions, belief systems, and behaviors are shaped by history, religion, ethnic identity, language, and nationality, among other factors. The Middle East consists of approximately 20 countries with many different religions and a variety of ethnic and linguistic groups. Given this diversity, we should not be surprised to find a multitude of different cultures coexisting in the region. History. In ancient times, many different empires occupied and competed with each other over land in the Middle East. Some of the most influential of these empires were the Byzantine, the Persian, the Arab, and the Ottoman. All of these empires had their own religions, customs, languages, and traditions. They have all left lasting impacts on the culture and cuisine of the Middle East. Cuisine in the Middle East is diverse and changes depending on country. Some dishes are specific to one region, and flavoring techniques may change from country to country. Similarities exist, however, and some dishes are popular throughout much of the Middle East. Olives and chickpeas are frequently used in cooking, and flatbreads such as pita are popular. Since most countries in the Middle East are primarily Islamic, certain dietary rules are observed. Alcohol is prohibited in many countries, as are pork products. Chicken, beef, and lamb are popular protein choices, and chunks of these meats are sometimes skewered with vegetables and cooked as kebabs. Yogurt and cheeses are specifically made and used in cooking. Soups and side dishes made with lentils, beans, peppers, and other vegetables are often served with main course. Typically, Middle Eastern food is flavorful and aromatic. And uses spices such as cumin, nutmeg, turmeric, and caraway to achieve strong flavors that are unique to cooking of the region. Middle Eastern music has many genres, from classic to pop. Middle Eastern music tends to have strong melodies and complex rhythms. Middle Eastern vocalists usually sing with a nasal quality, as opposed to Western singers who tend to strive for a more chest quality. Middle Eastern music combines use of modern Western instruments and classic instruments unique to the region. For example, many Middle Eastern songs use an oud, which is a wooden string instrument thought to be the inspiration for the European lute. Song lyrics cover a range of topics, from religion to romance. Perception. Arab and Muslim refer to the same people. Arabs are people who speak Arabic as a native language and identify themselves as Arabs. Muslims are those who practice the religion of Islam. Perception. Islam is fundamentally different from Christianity and Judaism. Muslim, Christians, and Jews worship the same God. All three are monotheistic religions with many common doctrines, texts, and beliefs. Perception. Islam is oppressive towards women. Islam was a major reform for women and granted them new rights, including the right to agree to their marriage partner, the right to education, and guaranteed share of family inheritance. Perception. The Middle East is one big sandy desert with lots of camels, populated by men with turbans and long white robes, women in black with their faces covered, men waving long curved swords, harems and scantily clad women serving one man, husbands with 4 wives, rich oil Sikhs, and terrorists. The Middle East and the Islamic world are diverse societies. More Muslims live in fertile plains and fishing villages than in deserts. Clothing and customs for men and women vary enormously in different countries and depend on variables like class, education, political structures, urban versus rural location, and individual preference. Muslims respect the same prophets as Jews and Christians, including Abraham, Noah, Moses, and Jesus. In fact, Muslims consider Islam to have existed since Abraham, with Judaism and Christianity being intermediate forms of the final religion revealed to Muhammad. Jews and Christians are specifically protected in the Quran as peoples of the book, since Islam considers both the Torah and the New Testament to be revelations from God, though flawed in the process of human transmission. As an example of the difference in interpretation, Muslims do not believe Jesus is the Son of God. This acceptance would contradict the Islamic belief in the uniqueness of God's divinity. Like Judaism, Islam has a strong legal tradition that describes the rules by which members of the religious community should live. Some of these rules, like dietary restriction against eating pork, are very similar. Each religious group have commonalities. It is important to show students their ideological sameness to show we are not so different after all.
Many languages,
three families. The multiplicity of languages spoken in the Middle East reflects its ethnic diversity. Most of these languages come from three major language families: Semitic, including Arabic, Hebrew, Aramaic; Indo-European, including Kurdish, Persian, Armenian; and Turkic, including Turkish and Azeri.
Situated between
Africa, Asia, and Europe, the Middle East has been a crossroads for traders, travelers, and empire builders for thousands of years. Africans, Central Asians, and Celts have all added to the ethnic mix. Major ethnic groups in the Middle East today include Arabs, Iranians, also known as Persians, Turks, Jews, Kurds, Barbars, Armenians, Nubians, Azeris, and Greeks.
These language
families reflect the successive migrations of different people into the region. A quick examination of these languages reveals the influence they have had on each other. Persian, for example, is written in Arabic script, while Turkish incorporates vocabulary words from Persian and Arabic. Arabic itself is spoken in regional dialects that are not always mutually understood. Some ethnic and religious communities have preserved native tongues for religious use, such as Coptic and Greek.
The word
adab is not fully translatable from Arabic to English. It encompasses all good things a Muslim must do. Adab linguistically means to invite people for food. The Arabic word maduba is a word derived from the word adab and means to invite all for many people for all types of food, or a gathering around a table. Adab hence includes all that is good, every noble characteristic, habit, or trait that is included within the scope of adab.
Adab
is natural. It isn't really taught or learnt, but it is naturally developed. Children acquire adab from their parents, students from their teachers, the young from the elders. We may have much knowledge but lack adab, and we may have much adab but lack knowledge. But it is adab that holds the greater value and importance. In today's society, where parents, teachers, and elders are no longer given the correct honors, respect, or rights, basic manners have made a swift exit, whilst we compete for glory, knowledge, and worldly gain.
When one sneezes,
let him say, Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah. And let his brother or companion say to him, Yarhamuk Allah, may Allah have mercy on you.
If he says
Yarhamuk Allah, then let the sneezer say, Yadikum Allah wa yushlihu balakum. May Allah guide you and rectify your condition. Conclusion. The phrases used to praise Allah have been narrated in various forms. Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah. Alhamdulillah ala kulli hal, praise be to Allah in all situations. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds. These phrases used to pray for mercy for the sneezer have also been narrated in various forms. Yadikum ala wa yushilu balakum, may Allah guide you and rectify your condition. Yaghfir alahu lana wa lakum, may Allah forgive us and you. Afana ala wa yigakum min anar, yakhamukum Allah, may Allah save us and you from the fire. May Allah have mercy on you. Yarhamuna Allahu wa yikhakum wa yafir lana wa lakum. May Allah have mercy on us and you. May He forgive us and you. All of these are Sahih, and the Muslim may choose whichever of them he wants, and Allah knows best.
Where does art
meet friendship, or even relaxation?
There are several
possible answers to that question, but one can be found in the local artist, Shara Reynolds, and her art form of choice, henna. I'm trying to honor the traditions of henna and also bring people into the moment, Reynolds said of her particular henna technique. I want them to just be here, right now during henna time. In countries where the henna plant is native to Africa, India, and the Middle East, it is thought to bestow love, blessings, prosperity, protection, and all good things to the person who gets it.
A second contribution
from the Middle East are, of course, horses. The Arabian or Arab horse is a breed of horse that originated on the Arabian Peninsula. With a distinctive head shape and a high tail carriage, the Arabian is one of the most easily recognizable horse breeds in the world. It is also one of the oldest breeds, with archaeological evidence of horses in the Middle East that resemble modern Arabians dating back 4,500 years. Throughout history, Arabian horses have spread around the world by both war and trade, used to improve other breeds by adding speed, refinement, endurance, and strong bones. Today, Arabian bloodlines are found in almost every modern breed of riding horse.
The
Arabian developed in a desert climate and was prized by the nomadic Bedouin people, often being brought inside the family tent for shelter and protection from thieves. Selective breeding for traits, including the ability to form a cooperative relationship with humans, created a horse breed that is good-natured, quick to learn, and willing to please. The Arabian also developed the high spirit and alertness needed in a horse used for raiding and war. This combination of willingness and sensitivity requires modern Arabian horses owners to handle their horses with competence and respect. A final influence that Middle Easterners have bestowed upon the United States is a strong interest in education. Millions of new immigrants, legal and illegal, from the Middle East are projected to settle in the United States by 2018, and the total Middle Eastern immigration population will grow to about 2.5 million. His Excellency Khalid Al-Duwaisan, Ambassador of Kuwait and Dean of Diplomatic Corps.
Kuwait
is rarely really seen as a regional powerhouse. The same cannot be said of its ambassador in London. Mr. Al-Duwaisan has been through what most never will. From being a refugee in his own country during the 1991 Iraq invasion to now being the longest-serving diplomat in the UK, the diplomatic community has seen London grow into a diplomatic hub second only to the United Nations under his stewardship.
Recently,
Mr. Al-Duwaisan has fought to address regional security concerns stemming from the rise of Islamic fundamentalist groups. The infamous ISIS is besmirching the name of Islam across the globe, but the ambassador is working hard to set the record straight. In collaboration with academic and civil society groups, he aims to achieve not only the recognition that Islam is, in fact, peaceful, but he also wishes to promote more religious tolerance in the region. His work with the Arab League in working to achieve one voice for the Islamic religion and culture will also prove a useful tool in the future to promote Arab unity in the future, which will be key in establishing a more peaceful Middle East region and defeating extremism. Positive change doesn't just happen overnight, and Mr. Al-Duwaisan's long-term anti-extremist program will likely take years to come to fruition. Still, he has laid the foundation for more productive anti-extremist discussions than those conducted before, a single Arab voice coming from inside the region itself. Maha al-Asmaq wants to understand how the so-called good bacteria in the gut of a mother can affect the development of a fetus, especially the blood-brain barrier, a filter that keeps the blood in the brain free from potentially harmful substances. A mother herself, Al-Asmaq received her doctoral degree from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden last year, and is now an assistant professor in the biomedical science department at Qatar University. Last year, Al-Asmaq received the L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science Middle East Fellowship Award. The fellowship recognizes women Arab scientists who research have advanced scientific knowledge that could change the world for the better. The fellowship grants Al-Asmaq $25,000 to conduct her next research project. She's planning to use the support to see if the healthy gut bacteria can prevent diabetes. I am very happy to have received the award, she says. Madaya Mom tells the story of a mother of 5 in the war-torn country. Marvel has just added another superhero to its collection, and she's not your typical flying crime fighter. She's a Syrian mother. Since January, ABC News has been documenting part of the Syrian civil war through text messages and phone conversations from a mother of 5 in the town of Madaya, which has been under siege by Syrian government forces. Marvel teamed up with the ABC News to turn the mom's heartbreaking experiences in the war-torn country into a comic titled Madaya Mom. It is known that within the Middle East there are many different ethnic, religious, social, and political groups. At times, these groups are at odds with one another. Rather than resorting to violence as they have in the past, the youth of these groups are channeling their emotions into a different form of resistance. Music, especially hip-hop, has always been at the heart of social and political upheaval, inspiring change and speaking out against inequality and injustice. With the rise of revolution in the Middle East and North Africa, rappers from the region are also using music to bring about change. For Arab countries in the Middle East, the influence and performance of hip-hop lights a few fuses. First, the debate that hip-hop's cultural swapping is a harmful Western import to Arab music and society. When Al Jazeera reported earlier this year on the Egyptian rappers MTM winning the Best Modern Arab Act in the first Arabian Music Awards, it questioned whether it was a harmful influence, suggesting anxieties about the potentially corrupted lyrics and harming traditional Arab music. Second, the implication of what has always given hip-hop appeal: its words. As the Arab Spring gained momentum, many of the youth in the region felt oppressed socially, religiously, politically, and artistically. Here are some of the top artists in the region that are fighting to break down boundaries, open hearts, and have their voices heard. Omar Offendum is a Syrian-American hip-hop artist born in Saudi Arabia, based in Washington, D.C., and living in Los Angeles. He has been featured on several major news outlets, including Al Jazeera, PBS, LA Times, Rolling Stone, and Vice. Toured the world to promote his groundbreaking music, helped raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for various humanitarian relief organizations, lectured at a number of prestigious academic institutions, and most recently been involved in creating several critically acclaimed songs about the popular democratic uprising throughout the Middle East and North Africa. Khaled Ahmed, aka Khaled M., grew up in Lexington's Libyan community. His father was a Libyan political prisoner from 1972 to 1977. After leading student groups against Gaddafi, Mohammed Ahmed was able to escape prison, free Libya, and lead oppositional groups from abroad. But after 3 years of running, the family decided to raise Khaled and his 2 brothers in one town. The family settled in Kentucky, Khaled says, because Gaddafi's assassins would never look for members of the opposition in Lexington. The Bard of North African revolutionary wave that is washing over the Arab world is just 28 years old. Born Hamada Ben Amur, he is the youngest of 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl. He and 1 brother still live with their mom and dad in Sfax, and 3-hour drive from the capital Tunis. His mother runs a bookshop in town. His father is a medic in a hospital. In Tunisian terms, they are middle class. Malika was born Lin Fatouche to an Algerian mother and a Lebanese father in the seaside city of Marseille, France. The youngest of 3 children, Malika grew up in war-torn Beirut, a city that served to inspire some of her most personal and evocative music. Today, in a genre dominated by males, Malika, now 30, distinguishes herself as one of the most outspoken female Arab rappers among the lights of established regional underground artists, including The Recipe, The Narcissist, and Quasi. With her lyrics, Malika confronts inequalities, the ongoing plight of Palestinian people, and aims to empower women. Karim Essa, also known as Rush, is one of the first and most important figures of Egyptian hip-hop. At the heights of the Arab Spring, he was one of its most vocal and iconic voices in the scene. Rush is also credited for popularizing Egyptian hip-hop in the Middle Eastern region and also internationally. He is co-founder of one of the most successful Egyptian hip-hop groups, the Arabian Nights, with co-members Sphinx and E-Money, and is highly respected for his political lyrics and unrelenting rapping style. One unique law working its way through the court system in Shihara law, a ban on Shihara law, is legislation that would prohibit the application or implementation of Islamic law, Shihara, in courts in any civil, non-religious jurisdiction. In the United States, various states have banned Shihara law. or pass some kind of ballot measure that prohibits the state's courts from considering foreign, international, or religious law. As of 2014, these include Alabama, Arizona, Kansas, Louisiana, North Carolina, South Dakota, and Tennessee. Executive Order 13769 banned nationals of 7 Muslim-majority countries from entering the United States for at least 90 days. The order barred all people hailing from Iraq, Syria, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. Those countries were named in the 2016 law concerning immigration visas as countries of concern. The executive order also banned entry of those fleeing from war-torn Syria indefinitely. The admission of all refugees to the United States for 4 months was also stopped. The order also called for a review into suspending the visa interview waiver program, which allows travelers from 38 countries, including close allies, to renew travel authorizations without an in-person interview. Executive Order 13780 superseded the original travel ban. The new order dictates that 90-day ban on the issuance of new visas for citizens of 6 majority Muslim nations. In addition, the nation's refugee program will be suspended for 120 days, and the United States will not accept more than 50,000 refugees in a year, down from the 110,000 cap set by the Obama administration. According to the ACLU, following the 2015 attacks in Paris, the House of Representatives passed a bill designed to halt the resettlement of Syrian and Iraqi refugees to the United States. Congress tightened controls in the visa waiver program by passing a law that enshrines discrimination against dual nations of Iran, Iraq, Sudan, and Syria, or someone who has visited those countries in recent years, including the relatives of American citizens wanting to visit family. The United States has presently banned many common electronic devices that are larger than a cell phone from the cabin on inbound and outbound flights on planes coming to the United States from 10 airports in Muslim-majority countries in the Middle East and North Africa in response to unspecified terrorism threats. Perception. Everyone in the Middle East is Muslim. In addition to large Jewish population in Israel, there are also significant Christians and small Jewish communities throughout the region. Perception. People in the Middle East don't place a high value on education and worldliness. Parents in the Middle East want their children to have a good education in the arts and sciences. Worldly experiences through travel and exposure of other countries is also highly regarded. Although literacy rates vary from country to country, over 80% of the people in Arab countries are literate. Perception. The practices of Islam are harsh and austere. Muslims have both prescribed and prohibited acts. The expectations put on Muslims are comparable to the demands made of members of many of the world's faiths. Perception. Islam is violent. Most Muslims condemn violence as heartily as any non-Muslim and resent being presumed violent on the basis of a shared religion or the rhetoric of a partial group. Perception. Muslims are all foreigners who cannot adapt to Western societies. Muslims live normal lives in societies throughout the world, shopping, cooking, telling jokes, going to work, raising families. They also have a long history in America. For example, a large portion of the African slaves brought to America in the 18th and 19th centuries were Muslim. Arab immigrants came to this country in waves starting in the late 19th century. Most were Christian, but many were Muslim. Perception. Everyone in the Middle East hates the United States and Europe. While some people are critical of Americans and Europeans' foreign policy in the region, for many of these countries are also role models for economic and developmental and political freedom. Perception. Muslims hate all non-believers, and our cultural differences are insurmountable. Muslim societies throughout history have tended to be more tolerant of religious minorities, especially Jews and Christians, than the West has. The Middle East has a long history of trade, communication, and cultural exchange with Europe and the United States, as well as other cultures around the world. Since September 11th, and even before, Middle Eastern people in the United States have faced criticism and backlash on perceived notions about them. As mentioned on slides 2 and 5, people from the Middle East come from many ethnically, culturally, and religiously different countries, but they are often lumped together and called Muslim. The terror attacks, combined with limited geographical knowledge of the Middle East and portrayals in film, have led to perceptions of Middle Eastern people as terrorists. This stigma has led to misunderstandings and generalizations of fear of people from the Middle East based on misperceptions. One of the biggest issues that people from the Middle East face is Islamophobia. Islamophobia is a closed-minded hatred, fear, or prejudice towards Islam and Muslims that results in discrimination, marginalization, and oppression. It creates a distorted understanding of Islam and Muslims and transforms diversity in name, language, culture, ethnicity, and race into a set of stereotyped characteristics. As such, Islamophobia is a system of both religious and racial animosity. In recent years, there has been an uptick in crimes against people from the Middle East. Biased crimes against Arabs, Muslims, and those assumed to be Arab or Muslim spiked 1,700% in the first 6 months after September 11th, and have never since returned to their pre-2001 levels. Luckily, there are some positive strides that have been taken to improve the image of Middle Eastern people in the United States. There has been a reported increase in outreach activities by a number of federal agencies, particularly the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division and the Department of Homeland Security Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, who are increasingly engaged in dialogue and coordination with Arab American and Muslim organizations. There has been moves from the U.S. government to contrast the negative opinions that are out there by bridging the gap between Arab rights groups to change the perception of Middle Easterners. Another source noted that younger generations of Middle Easterners are becoming more proactive in combating the perceptions of being more active in their communities by doing outreach work and community service to inform people about the Middle Eastern culture. College students from the Middle East attending U.S. colleges numbered up to 114,000 in the 2014-15 academic year, and those numbers continue to climb. Students coming to the U.S. look forward to school and the new opportunities awaiting them, but they are still leery over how they will be treated, since many of whom may worry about safety, stereotypes, and cultural differences, among other issues. There have been incidents of hate crimes toward Middle Eastern students on college campuses, but many reports note that students also made to feel welcome and supported by American-born peers. Educators need to be aware of cultural morals and the impact on how students interact with adults as well as with peers. Assumptions cannot be made when it comes to dealing with people of other cultures, which is what happens to Middle Eastern students in many cases. Several Middle Eastern relations sites urge educators to talk to their students to find out about their lives and values in order to support them in class. That trickles down to educating peers to be tolerant, to inquire in positive ways to learn about others. According to AAIUSA.org, demographics, the latest demographics of people in the Middle Eastern descents are as follows. Arab immigrants began coming to the U.S. in sizable numbers during the 1800s. Today, it is estimated that nearly 3.7 million Americans trace their roots to an Arab country. Arab Americans are found in every state, but more than two-thirds of them live in just 10 states: California, Michigan, New York, Florida, Texas, New Jersey, Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. First, since first-generation Arab American students are often accustomed to direct, teacher-centered learning, it would be helpful for teachers to slowly expose their students to critical and student-centered activities. Including both teacher-centered and student-centered instruction creates an environment where Arab learners can gradually adjust to the new method of instruction. Changes in behavior and learning require time. Every time a student attempts to learn through constructive techniques, he improves. However, if a teacher simply expects an Arab student to adjust to student-centered learning immediately, the student will be overstimulated and will fail to learn at all. Developing a personal relationship with individual students will show them that you are interested in them. Providing individual feedback on assignments will enhance their learning experience. Share other Middle Eastern student stories, such as difficulties or triumphs. Use culturally relevant materials. Students will engage more and make connections to their own life experiences and become more interactive in the classroom, which will improve their learning. Include Middle Eastern and Middle Eastern American literature. Ancient and contemporary history, culture, and current events in the classroom discussion provides Middle Eastern students with a balanced view of the achievements and shortcomings of their peoples. Curriculum has worked to integrate Black, Hispanic, Asian American stories into the curriculum. It is time we do the same for Middle Eastern Americans. Set the rules for classroom behavior with student input. Teach about the code of conduct social conventions in the United States.
Students who are learning a second
language will benefit greatly when the teacher uses multiple ways to allow them to access the materials. Information can be conveyed through the use of images, video, text, and real-life objects.
Many Middle Eastern people came
to the United States for the same reason every other immigrant has come: economic opportunity. Most only plan on staying in the United States until they saved enough money to return home with greater status. As men realized that women and family were economic assets, they would return to the Middle East, marry, and bring their wives back to the United States.
Events in the Middle East,
from the oil embargo to hijacking, combined with media campaigns that linked Arab Americans with terrorism, made Arabs and Arab Americans increasingly stereotyped and a suspect to many Americans. After the September 11, 2001 attacks on the United States, Arab Americans were subject to hate crimes, racial profiling, and discrimination. In response to these events, Arab Americans became a leading voice in the civil rights community of the United States.